And you want to be in a network that builds you up. It's like that proximity is power thing. You don't want to be in a situation where you're around people that'll drain you, or that are negative, or that are downers, because they'll pull you down with them.
Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, really appreciate it. This week, speak with Albert Bramante. Now, Mr. Bramante is a college professor. He is an acting coach. He's been in the world of entertainment for decades at this point, and he's going to talk a little bit about the world of coaching actors, the world of getting actors prepared for what is a pretty challenging profession to get into. You know, it's not easy. It's a million different auditions and a lot of rejection, and just trying to stay ready and trying to not get discouraged. We'll talk kind of specifically about just being an actor and just trying to get through day-to-day life, making ends meet, and also staying ready and not getting discouraged, like I mentioned. But I think what you'll find from this, because of course I know most of the people listening are not actors. You know, this is an acting podcast. So I think what you'll find, and what I try to glean from this, even directly from Albert, is that developing momentum, not getting discouraged, making sure that you have a positive mindset, can be taken into any profession. It can be taken into anything in life. And we talk a little bit about, we try to find the areas that make you just a little uncomfortable, and going for those. Because a lot of times when we go for something that makes us just a little uncomfortable, it winds up good. Now, this isn't a self-help podcast, so I don't want to dive deep into what everyone should be doing, but I think that if we can learn a little bit from each guest, that's always a great thing, and I learned a lot from Albert. So I think you're going to enjoy this one. Relatively short episode, but if you want to learn more about Albert, all of his links will be in the show notes. If you want to follow along with this podcast, definitely appreciate that. Not Enough Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. Not Enough with Jackson Huff on Facebook. Go leave that 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. That helps a ton. Leave a written review on both. Helps even more. But without further ado, here is Albert Bramante. Mr. Bramante, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jackson. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for agreeing to join me. Hardest question, just introduce yourself.
Well, it definitely tough one. Starting with a tough one. So my name is Albert Bramante. I have a background in psychology. I also been a talent agent for the past 21 years. In New York, I represent actors for film, TV, theater, commercial, print, and voiceover. And I've been doing that for a while. And I love what I do.
Yeah, and I wanna unpack all that. And you talk about how you do a lot of different things, but let's just kind of focus at the moment on the world of entertainment. How did you get involved in that? You said you've been a talent agent for 20 plus years. How did you first get involved in entertainment?
Well, I was always had somewhat of an interest in it. In high school and college, I was involved in some drama clubs. I was involved in some activities, a lot of clubs, a lot of organizations, including drama club. So I was very much interested in that, in the arts and creative pursuits. Didn't really know what I was going to do or pursue that in any way, so I just was more of an interest and a hobby. And then after I graduated. I was started job hunting, of course, because I had my master's degree at the time. So I wanted to look for some work in New York City where I'm near, and came across, actors again and creatives, and I really got kind of revived my interest in it. So I did a little bit of acting myself, as most people who work in this industry have, and it wasn't necessary for me. I didn't really have the um drive or the interest to pursue it full time, but I love being around actors, and I love working with actors, and I love working with creatives. And so that was sort of like my natural transgression was to kind of move forward from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and you're a talent agent, but I think you kind of take it a step further in what you do for your clients. Talk a little bit about that. I know you've got a lot more to you than just that when it comes to helping actors and other people in the entertainment world.
Well, in addition to just the, day-to-day work as an agent, my day-to-day responsibility is to find work for my clients and to find jobs, gigs, whatever we want to call that. And that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. But I've, in my years of doing this and my experience of doing this, I've found that I always encountered a lot of factors that were you know having a lot of self-doubt, imposter syndrome, because as rewarding as this industry is, it's ultra competitive. So it's a really tough industry to be in, as an actor. So, when you have a high degree of competitiveness as this is, it's easy to fall into imposter syndrome and self-doubt and start wondering, am I on the right path? So the one thing that I was noticing a lot over my beginning years of being an agent, where there was a lot of actors that were engaging in regular amounts of self-sabotage or shooting themselves in the foot. And what that means is they were sometimes like being their own worst enemy, getting in their own way, if you want to call it that. And so one thing that I noticed as this was happening over time was their actions, their words, like what they were saying, and their actions were completely different. So I need to focus on something here. So when I was going for my PhD and working on my dissertation, I researched and studied actors and why this self-sabotage was happening. And, a couple of interesting insights, including fear of success, fear of failure. And so a lot of these things kept coming up that were blocking. And then I kind of realized, okay, maybe I can do something additional, than just being, the typical agent, getting them work. Maybe I can do something where I can help them overcome their self-imposed limitations or their help them get out of their own way.
Yeah. And so I mean, how have you incorporated that into your work now? Is it something that just provide all of your actors? Is it something that you do outside of your work as an agent, or what does that look like?
It is something that I do outside of my work a little bit, but I definitely within the work too is something that I do. So I work a lot with, you know, a lot of times sometimes it might be talking an actor off the ledge in the sense of quitting and or giving up, and just sometimes encouraging them to keep going, keep shining their light in a sense.
Yeah. And you talk about, self-sabotage and the ultra competitiveness and self-doubt and all that kind of stuff. If you had to, I guess, pick one thing, what is the biggest, mental block or issue that people go through in this industry?
I would say the biggest mental block is just the idea of the self-doubt. You're going into all these auditions, you're pouring yourself out, being vulnerable, and then getting told a lot of no's, because that's the reality of the industry is you're gonna be told more no's than you are yeses. That's gonna wear the actor down or anybody down over time, especially if it's something you're really passionate about and excited about, and then you kind of be told no, and it puts a damper on things. So that could be why actors tend to give up easily or just start to like kind of just engage in some sort of self-doubt in a sense.
Well, I think that would be a huge thing, and that would build on itself and make people not do as well in their next audition if they're doubting their abilities. So yeah, I understand that for sure, and I want you to talk a little bit about uncovering hidden potential. I know that's something that you work a lot with too. What does that mean exactly?
Well, hidden potential is really sometimes it's really just somebody doesn't really believe, fully believe in themselves and they're not tapping into what they actually could do. Because again, fear is a very powerful deterrent. And let's talk a little bit about fear. Now, fear is all about protecting us. And fear is really designed to protect us. And it's an adaptable emotion. It's an emotion we all need. And there's nothing wrong with fear, and fear is actually what kept us survived. Our species survived over the thousands of years we've inhabited the earth. So now our situations have changed dramatically over the past several hundred years, and we're no longer in danger as we were back in earlier times. So what happens is, even though we're not necessarily in a danger anymore, anything that's a bit scary can sometimes be, our brain is designed to protect us. So it'll then start saying, I need to shield you from danger. So therefore, we're going to hold you back a bit. And so what can happen very on a conscious level is you may think of opportunities not being worth your time. This may be a waste of my time. I'm not going to pursue this. When what's really going on is there's a deeper level of fear going on. And this fear can be preventing someone from moving forward. And so reaching their fullest potential in a sense, because they may be afraid of putting themselves out there or afraid of stepping outside their comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always like to kind of expand the idea when I speak to people, because believe it or not, most of the people that listen to this podcast are not in the entertainment world. So, and it's a very small leap. It's not much of a jump at all. But how can we use kind of the things that you're talking about in daily life, and not just when it comes to, you know, doing well in that audition, or believing in yourself for the next role? I like I said, it seems pretty easy, but talk a little bit about that.
Well, very simple things you can do. Number one is, I think, always having a growth mindset, which means trying to learn new skills. And I think every day we should be doing something, whether we're in any industry that we're in. We should all be working with, towards improving ourselves and to bettering ourselves. So take an action every day that can help you get to where you need to go. And that might be, joining networking groups, and some of these could be online and virtual, or going to a networking event in person and meeting people that can possibly collaborate with you. So it's things that you can do on a day-to-day basis. So the biggest thing is your social circle, your network. And you want to be in a network that builds you up. It's like that proximity is power thing. You don't want to be in a situation where you're around people that'll drain you, or that are negative, or that are downers, because they'll pull you down with them. So you want to build a network that's strong, that's positive, that'll hold you accountable, and that will elevate you. And that's something you could do regardless of whether or not you have an upcoming audition, an interview. Hang out with people that associate with people that are even more successful than you are at the moment, because that'll help you level up. And another thing is, to do things that are, be okay with being uncomfortable, because comfort is the biggest addiction that we all have, and it's easy to stay comfortable in situations than to do the thing that's a little uncomfortable or scary. And we all need, and myself included, and a lot of us need to be able to step outside that and say, hey, it's okay to be scared, but this is sometimes the way we're going to grow, and the only way we're going to get better is by, you know, stepping outside of ourselves, and being okay with being uncomfortable. Because a lot of times what we do often is, because something uncomfortable, we try to keep it safe. And while again, it may feel good to be safe temporarily in a short-term basis, we're not going to evolve to where we need to be if we stay safe. And we're only doing ourselves a disservice down the line if we're always playing it safe.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've interviewed hundreds of people at this point, and I think that a good chunk of them, the reason that we're speaking, whether they've written a book or whether they have pursued a career that is unique, or they've had a unique experience in their life, most of it comes from stepping out of that comfort zone, and doing something that wasn't something that they were probably super comfortable with in the beginning. So I think that makes all the difference of you know being able to do things that are just a little bit out of the norm and make you a little bit little uncomfortable. So I think that's important for sure. I do want to kind of shift into a different topic in the world of entertainment because I noticed that you've talked about this and I've talked to a lot of actors and directors and people in this world that don't they some of them do, but not all of them have the same thought process behind this. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this, and this is kind of the world of AI. You've talked about how it it's not necessarily always a bad thing when it comes to
Hmm.
creativity and things. Talk about that because it is a definitely a growing topic, definitely in your world.
Oh, of course. Well, AI is kind of like a a fact of life in every aspect now, in day-to-day life. And really, a lot of us have used AI a while, whether even before it became popular in early 2023 when ChatGPT started rising. I'll give you an example. If any of you've ever used Alexa, or GPS if you're driving, that uses AI. Even if you have Netflix and it'll tell you like suggestions of what to watch next, that's AI. So we've been using AI for many years. It just become more and more popular in the past 2.5 years. So I like to use it for like, helping be like your second brain in a sense, or your partner and use it to maybe do some research or some automated tasks that may require you that normally would have required you hours that can be done in minutes. That can now help you do what you need to do that's important. Now, I like, I definitely am a proponent of AI, but I'm also a proponent of still making sure your own voice is still there. Because the one thing you don't want to do is be completely robotic and be like, okay, cut and paste, there you go. Now I have it done. Um, because it'll never have your voice. It can only go by, predictive text, and it can only go by what it's been trained. It's really a robot in a sense. So it lacks that creativity. Now, in our industry, especially in the performing arts industry, AI kind of has a very mixed relationship with actors and creatives have a very mixed relationship with AI. And I can understand that there are some areas of concern. The one thing that I don't really see it being a threat right now is creativity, because the thing about AI is it's not really good at being creative unless, of course, you as a prompter have to be creative. It's not going to create things on its own. So, um, the only thing that is a concern is voice cloning. So if you're a voice actor, let's say you've done like narration or video games, unfortunately now a lot of software can now clone voices and make up voices that, now you could pay just a fraction of the price that you normally would have paid an actual voiceover person. So that's the one thing I'm concerned about. Um, and I know there's a rise now in like AI actors and AI avatars. The only thing that I can really say with that is that it's going to lack the creativity and lack the depthness of a human actor. So I'm not too terribly concerned about that. Recently, there was a post this week about an AI actress by the name of Tilly. If anybody's ever saw that, where she was like auditioning for a horror movie, and it was comical because the audition was so bad, and so that kind of like gives me a little bit of comfort. Like, okay, they're not going to be replacing human actors anytime soon. Um, what does concern me in that aspect is the crowd scenes, because now it's going to be easier to CGI and put a crowd and take a crowd from one movie and put it into another, which means it'll save money, of course, on a production for hiring all these extras. But that's going to mean a lot of actors are now going to be struggling for work, because a lot of actors, especially the ones I know, I don't necessarily rep these people. There's a lot of actors that are professional extras because they get their money and health insurance from the unions by just doing background work all the time. That may be threatened, and you almost have to put yourself in the position of an executive. It's not fair, of course, but if you're a movie executive and you're trying to cut corners, What better way than the CGI? Because you can pay only even one or 2% of the amount that you would normally would have to pay to wrangle all these extras in. Because every time every extra that gets hired in a movie has to be fed, fed, and there's liability insurance when they're on set that you have to make sure that they're protected. Now you eliminate all of that, and so now you just can save a production so much money by CGIing a crowd scene in. Well, you just use a couple good coders, and that can be a fraction of the cost. But again, there's always a disadvantage and advantage. Um, and really, in summary, I think the mistake a lot of us make with AI is not using it all, and then or being 100% reliant, dependent on it. Where because nowadays a lot of people are turning to AI like chatbots for companionship, friendships, relationships. A lot of these chatbots are programmed to be conversational, so it gives you the illusion that you're talking to somebody, but you're really not. And that also concerns me to some degree, is people like kind of like favoring AI bots over real people.
What do you think? I guess, what do you think the future of the entertainment industry looks like with this? Because you've talked about some of the good parts and the bad parts. Do you think it's something that, that the world of entertainment is just going to adapt to, and that these things are more accepted and incorporated? Do you think that it's something that the whether it's the union or somewhere else is going to try to put more limitations on it and not allow some of the things that are happening, or where do you think the industry's going?
Well, that's a very good question, and I'm not sure I know the answer to that. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, the downside of it, in a sense of why we're seeing a rise in the threat of AI is, again, it's cheaper. So it's going to be much more cheaper for executives, movie executives, TV executives to protect to have AI. But I don't see the creativity aspect yet. Like I was just even fooling around and a bunch of us were like a while back with like ChatGPT was telling us a joke or a funny story, and it was so bad, to the point that what it was giving us was not funny, and it wasn't even like remotely, or even remotely creative. It was like almost like see Jane run. Jane has a white lamb, and it was very robotic and creative and uncreative, very robotic like. So I'm not sure yet that we're gonna see that aspect of it. Like I said, I am concerned about the voice stuff. I'm concerned about the voice actors. I'm concerned about, all types of voiceover work.
Yeah, I want to shift again, and because let's kind of get back to your specialty, and that is,
Sure.
helping the talent in this world. And I know that you've written some of that down, and you've got a book that you've written. Tell us about the book, what it's called, what people are going to learn from it, and all that stuff.
Sure. Well, my book is called Rise Above the Script: Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. It's available on Amazon and as well as an audiobook. And what it's about is really the idea of working on self-sabotage, recognizing it and coming up with ways and how to get out of that pattern. And the one thing that I kind of mentioned earlier is having a mastermind. I talk a lot about that. Um, I talk a lot about stepping outside of comfort zone, setting as well as setting goals. But I also talk about fears because fear is a big thing that will hold us back, and one of the main reasons why we self-sabotage. Uh, because again, it's about keeping us safe. It's about safety. So I talk a lot about that. There's a lot of, techniques in there to overcome that. And even though it's the title, it's geared for performing artists, but in actuality, there's a lot of stuff that can be beneficial to all of you, to everybody, not just actors. Really anybody who's struggling to kind of put themselves out there.
Yeah, no, I guess I want to. What made you decide to write the book? Was it just because you've talked to so many actors that struggle with this, that need to, I guess have you in front of them a little bit more often with it in written form, or what made you decide, hey, this is something I actually need to write?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a combination of both. I mean, like talking to so many actors and just noticing the patterns of self-sabotage. And because one of the sneaky thing about self-sabotage is most people don't even realize they're doing it. And that they may have that almost like the victim mentality, like why can't anything go right? Why is my life always going wrong? Or why is my career not moving forward? And sometimes the reasoning behind that is you're getting in your own way. You're your own worst enemy. And so it was kind of like born out of that, those type of conversations where it was like, I want to bring this to light more. And so that was kind of like my driving force for writing the book because I think it's important, to have these really important conversations.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, and I think we've covered a lot of different things, from the talent world to, helping actors and people outside of that world. We talked even a lot about AI, so a lot of different stuff. You are a very varied person when it comes to the your expertise, and if people want to hear more from you, where do they follow along? You already talked about picking up the book on Amazon, but kind of shout out all your connection points, if you will.
Sure. Well, I definitely recommend picking the book. You can follow me on Instagram at my handle at Dr. Al Bramante. So that's DRAL and then my last name, Bramante, Bramante. You can find me on LinkedIn under Albert Bramante and even on Facebook. And so I'm very accessible. Feel free to reach out, send me a message, and I could jump on a call with you.
Well, I really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
So that was Albert Bramante. Really appreciate his time. Learned a ton that I think we all can use, even those who are not actors, which include me. I'm certainly not an actor, but somebody that's in the space of putting something out to the public, and sometimes getting rejection, sometimes getting criticism, that kind of stuff. Just not getting discouraged, building that momentum, doing things that make you a little uncomfortable. I think starting this podcast at one point was a little uncomfortable, but now it's something that I couldn't imagine having not experienced, for sure. Uh, Albert's got a ton of great resources. He's got a book that you can check out. All the links to his information will be in the show notes. Definitely check that out. If this is your first time listening and you haven't already, go follow along with us on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen. Leave that 5-star rating. That helps a ton. Leave a written review on Apple or Spotify. That helps even more. Follow along on Instagram, on TikTok, Not Enough Podcast. But if you do nothing else, catch us next week. Take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.